So, I'm Nicole. I have a 4, almost 5-year-old son, Oliver, in that picture, and my husband, Scott. We moved to Georgia about 4 years ago, which we had been here about 9 months when the pandemic hit. So yes, I've lived in Georgia for 4 years, but I really haven't been that far around Georgia. So we're branching out now. In terms of analytics, lights came on.
It's light.
There we go. I'm going to look at the screen now because that one's not easier to see. So in terms of data, I'm a data visualization developer at Abt Associates, which is a consulting contracting firm that we contract with the federal government around lots of various projects. My bachelor's and master's, though, is in psychology. So I originally, started I started college thinking I was going to be a chemist and I was going to get a PhD. So we've gone a little ways from that. But throughout college, I settled on psychology. It was something I really loved. Not only was it something that I could relate to and understand, but I loved the experimental statistics, numeric side of psychology. But I couldn't go to grad school right away because it's expensive. So I actually spent a few years working in human resources before getting my master's in psychology. And I really focused on the experimental side of it. My professors told me I'm not allowed to counsel anyone because I'm very bad at it, but I love the research and the statistics and the data side. So that's how I got into data analytics. My first role in data was in higher education. The title was Research Associate, so I figured I was going to be doing research, and I was not. I was doing, they brought up Tableau on my computer, which I had never heard of, and they brought up SAS on my computer, which I had never heard of. And when they were asking me, in the interview and such, we realized we were talking at each other, but not really to each other, because they were asking if I had used SPSS, and I'm like, yes. Well, I use SPSS from a research perspective, which is the point-and-click GUI run p-values. They use SPSS to code and to do ETL on their data. And I didn't know you could do that. So they thought I knew SPSS. They thought I could do the job. I thought I could do the job. But it was actually one of the best things that happened for my career. So Tableau was a big part of that because, again, not knowing code, not knowing how to do that, Tableau, being the drag and drop that it was, helped me learn what I needed to know about data so that I could then ask the right questions to learn how to wrangle it, to learn how to do that analytics side of it. So absolutely love Tableau, obviously, and that part of it. And as I was learning, I was going through my career, learning Tableau, and I kind of hit a ceiling because when you're working at a company and you're learning a product for the first time, not through school, you're learning it through your projects, you know what the people around you know and you know what your company knows. And so at some point, you learn all your tips and tricks and everything, but there could be additional parts that you may not really know about. I never really worked with date calculations in higher ed because that's not something we needed. We had snapshot data 3 times a year. I didn't need to do date calculations on it. I just needed to run all the descriptives, things like that, run the reports for the government, what they needed. So I came to ATUG, I came to Atlanta, and I came to ATUG with one of my coworkers, Juana, and I realized how much I didn't know because I didn't need to know it. And when I was thinking about my career path and what I wanted to do, I realized I needed to know more in order to get where I wanted to be. And I needed to be advocating for myself. So came to ATUG and, right before the pandemic. And then ATUG did this, it was called ATUG Iron Biz, Atlanta Iron Biz. And my friend and I participated in that. And that's where I learned about the Tableau community. So we participated in this little ATUG Iron Biz. And ATUG was starting to share our biz on social media, including Twitter and in the Tableau community. I'm I kind of want to know where they're sharing my stuff and who's seeing it, because I had no idea. So I got on Twitter, which is where I participate in the Tableau community. If anyone ever wants to talk about the community, I can go on and on about it. But it's a place for just data viz nerds, and we all love data viz. It's a super supportive community. And if you think about, for me, when I was learning Tableau and DataViz, I was kind of learning on a pretty steady curve, but the moment I joined the community, my skills just grew exponentially because I was around people who were using it in finance, who were using it in HR, and the community shares their knowledge freely. So I was seeing blog posts from visionaries, formerly known as Zen Masters, just sharing for free how to use Tableau in weird and new ways. And I could take that back to my company. So through the community, I became a Tableau Public Ambassador. So I use Tableau Public. I is at work and I is at home. So I have that portfolio and eventually became a visionary this year. Through the community, I now co-lead the Amana Tableau user group, which is awesome. But I also co-founded 2 projects called DataFanCon and EduVisors. So part of the community is we have these projects where, for those 2, we find data once a month and just share it out for anyone to use and want to see what people come up with and how they can visualize this kind of new data that maybe they haven't done before. I'm very sci-fi geeky, love fandoms, so for me I wanted data about that where I could practice things that I couldn't necessarily do at work. My last job, my boss would see some of the stuff I do on public and it involved sand keys and radial diagrams and all this stuff. He's like, you can't do that for work, right? I'm like, I've never tried to do this for work. I know, our clients can't understand radials and sand keys. I get that. So I get to do some of the artistic fun stuff on my own through the community, and then I kind of stick with what our clients need at work. So that's what I really love about it. And that's how I ended up here. So through the community, with just being able to grow so quickly and meet so many people, not only was I able to get these titles, but I was able to meet people at Abt Associates, which is a company that I just loved anyway, and able to network and end up with a job there. So that's kind of my journey as part of it. And so in terms of actually visualizing mental health data, my background in social science really shapes a lot of how I do my business, especially around mental health, and I think it's really important when talking about any kind of difficult topic to have that sense. So the first thing is creating the narrative. So for some context of the business that I'm going to share, especially with Biz for Social Good and TUI, which I'll talk about when I show that slide, I do a lot of work with nonprofits, and so it's really important to add context to any biz to show impact. And that can be different from a business dashboard where maybe you don't need the context, they just need the numbers so that they can track their KPIs, they can see where they're at. And so that's a very valuable skill. That's not part of this presentation. This one is about using data to tell a story and add context so that non-data savvy people can take the numbers and the analysis that you've done and show their impact, and that's how nonprofits will get their funding. So that's where this kind of comes from. So for me, if anyone's been in kind of a research background, there is something you write when you're writing papers that are called a literature review. And so I take my DataViz ideas and kind of say it's a visual literature review, which I'll show on the next slide. But kind of the key points of a lit review: engage the reader, provide context on why they should care, and this helps the nonprofits tell a comprehensive story for funding. I also do a lot of research just to get design inspiration. And when you are doing business for nonprofits or around mental health, make sure you're picking a format that your client can use. So this is TUI, Tap Elderly Women's Wisdom for Youth. This was a project done through Biz for Social Good, and they're based in Tanzania, and they provided a lot of data around depression and stress. So they work with mental health in Tanzania, and they had all of these measures of depression and stress and wanted to know their story that they could use in order to help get funding to continue their work. So kind of the first thing when doing a biz like this, a storytelling biz, is why should someone care about your biz? And so that's that first step of the literature review. Why should anyone care? So for me, I usually start with big numbers, bands. I want people to know that 3% of adults, 3.6% of females 10% of unemployed individuals in Tanzania have a mental health concern. These are the people that this nonprofit is helping, and that is not an insignificant number of people. This is why you should care and why you should keep reading. So tell the background, why is it important, what research has been performed, what's been found out, what area are you interested in, what are the current ideas and hypotheses, and what are the key research questions. So this is what a literature review is. And we can use this in data viz, especially in storytelling data viz. It translates pretty well. So, but it does involve finding some extra research. So when I'm doing like the TUI viz or the mental health vizzes, I take the data that I'm provided, I take the background of the organization and why they're doing what they're doing, but then I also go out and I look for other data that will provide that context, which is why I viz for fun like once a month. It takes a lot of work to get all of this, but I really enjoy it. So I could have just vizzed the data that TUI had. But for me, again, mental health being so important, I wanted to make sure, and you guys, this is all on Tableau Public, which I think I have a link to, so I know you can't read it, but it's an example. But I wanted to say why people should care about mental health access anywhere, but especially in Tanzania. So I pulled data from the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, which you can find online, and I pulled data from research articles to show like this is a problem and this is why people need to care. And these are the SDG data as well. So again, it's less about what is actually on here, but more about creating that context of, you can show anything, but if people don't care about it, they're not going to act on it. And then I went through the viz. I kind of narrowed it down to specifically TUI. So I started big. Why do we care about mental health access? Why does TUI care, or why does Tanzania care about mental health access? And then what impact has TUI, their organization, had specifically in their region? So creating that funnel. When visualizing mental health, there's a lot of considerations to have. It is a hard conversation. It took me years and years to tell anyone that I had been diagnosed with depression, that I had been diagnosed with anxiety. And if I can't say that about myself, that's hard for me to say, then talking about it in a viz or in a presentation is even harder. And especially if it isn't something that affects you, making sure that your voice is helping the community is something that can be really difficult, but shouldn't be shied away from. But there are things to consider when doing vizzes like that. So when talking about mental health is health. So it just is. That's how we can talk about it. We shouldn't have to necessarily hide from it. Reducing stigma when you're working on a data viz, especially if you're doing something in Tableau Public that is public, you don't know how far that reach will go. So making sure that the words you use are helping to reduce stigma and avoid correlations is something that's really important. And the Urban Institute has a set of do no harm guides, which I found really helpful. And you can just Google Urban Institute do no harm guides. And they talk about ways to talk about mental health, to talk about accessibility, to talk about race and ethnicity and age and any of these kind of topics to make sure that you aren't harming the audience that you are talking about. Correlation does not equal causation. Shark attacks and ice cream sales go up at the same time. They are very highly correlated. You are not going to have a higher shot of getting eaten by a shark if you eat ice cream. It's because it's summer, and people go swimming more in the summer, they eat ice cream more. So making sure when you are talking about things around mental health or topics, it can be any kind of topic where mental health becomes a part of the story. Just, avoid the correlations if you can. Well, no, not if you can. Just avoid the correlations, period. We're going to say that. Separate the person from the problem. Anyone who has a mental health disorder is a person first. And so making sure that it's about the person and focusing on them and not on whatever the issue is. And also, and this one's the hardest one, don't hide from the hard conversations, just talk about them in a helpful manner. So this is a viz I did on Tableau Public that ended up becoming a viz of the day. So again, you don't know where your vizes are going to go. Mine ended up going way farther than I thought it would. I did this for Mental Health Awareness Month, and it ended up getting a much farther reach than I realized. And so what I do when I talk about mental health is I don't hide from the hard conversations, but I make sure to provide resources in my viz for those conversations. So one of the symptoms of depression is suicidal ideation. I don't want to not talk about that, but I want to be sure that in my viz, I have a link where people can go to the suicide prevention hotline if that's something for them. Any kind of that. And then at the bottom of my viz, I always have resources such as this one, again, can't really see, but University of Michigan Center, the Trevor Project, Project Semicolon, places where people can go for themselves or to learn more, because that's another part of being an advocate is learning more and learning more about the communities. Same thing with TUI. They did have some of their scores. The PHQ-9 is a psychological assessment instrument that's used internationally. It does talk about that as well. I do want to point out in this one, because I did not have the resources to know kind of in Tanzania where people should go. I didn't put it on here, but I also didn't hide it because it is a conversation that this nonprofit has with their funders. And so it was important for them to know about it. I'm going to go into a series of unit charts here in a minute because I love unit charts, and I think a big part, especially with visualizing mental health, is kind of making it so that it becomes personable. And again, I know this is small, but instead of just doing bar graphs, each dot in that is a person. It is an ID. So instead of just doing a bar graph to say, hey, look, this bar is bigger than this one, bigger than this one. Like, no, these are people, and you can count the people who had each of these symptoms. And that that was something that TUI wanted to show, like, I'm not just helping this kind of group of, this ephemeral group that, maybe doesn't have a face. These are individuals. And yeah, the severe depression bar is low, but it doesn't mean that it's not important. Those are still people who we have served and who needed our help, and that's what our funding is for. Other ways you can do unit charts, because I love unit charts, you can do it for percentages out of 100 to show that prevalence. This one is called a plum pudding chart, this one, which again kind of shows that prevalence of like, okay, maybe 14% can seem small to people, but when you actually plot out like how much that is, it makes a bigger impact. Like it can seem small if you just have a number, but when you visualize these numbers, you can start to show that impact. And then this is a viz I did for Iron Viz to show difference of men and women performance in sports. And there are 4,342 dots on this graph to show that, especially down here, 4,341 men ran faster than the fastest woman in a 400-meter dash. And so showing that disparity, I could have, in a bar graph, I could have put a big number, but I wanted to put 4,341 dots to show that disparity in sports between men and women's performance. With mental health, it can be really hard to find the data. And so where I find data is actually in journal articles. And Google Scholar is a place where you can go to find journal articles that you can access for free. Still a lot easier when I worked in higher ed and I had access there, but you can still get them through Google Scholar. And so a lot of times, it is that extra effort where I have to go to a journal article and I have to find a table and then I have to translate it to Excel and then I have to visualize it. But it's a way to get that data across because journal articles tend to be read by other academics and the information doesn't always get out there. So DataViz is a way where we can take that and we can put it in a format that non-academics can access and read. This one in particular is also a way of showing uncertainty. So confidence intervals is another thing that is something to consider when you're doing visualizations, if you're doing anything around statistics, with p-values, with confidence intervals, making sure that you do visualize that so that, again, you aren't, either unintentionally misstating or causing harm with the outcomes that you are visualizing. And this was honestly from a journal article where it was just a list. And so I was like, I can visualize this. I can show people with people who, with taking mood stabilizers, what kind of conditions are there that take, any mood stabilizers, and go through that. So I can visualize this. And again, it takes the time to find the articles, but it's a way to do it to get that message out there. Finally, with any kind of storytelling biz, especially one around mental health, I always end with a call to action. And that call to action can be a bunch of different things. For nonprofits, I tend to link to their website and say, hey, you want to learn more? You want to find out ways to donate? Go over there. With mental health or any other harder topics, it's, hey, here are some resources that you can learn more, or if you need them, you can go access. But always having that, all right, you've told this story, you've got your data, you've got your viz, you've taken the time to do all that, you've really got people invested in this cause, now what? So, and you can do that, I do this in business too. If I've created a dashboard that helps find some outliers, now what? Okay, well, this data is owned over here. Let's go talk to them and figure that out. Or our client, has said, if you have questions, contact this. Let me put that email on there for you. So whenever we're visiting, we visit for a reason. Now what? I also talk really fast, so this is going faster than I practiced. We're going to get out a little early, I think. So finally, Biz for Social Good is one of the community projects that I just really love and I participate in, and something I wanted to give a shout out here. So they are a nonprofit, and their website is Biz for Social Good. And at least once a quarter, sometimes more, what they do is they partner with nonprofits, and the nonprofits, they work with the nonprofits in order to get the data in a visual format. So, whether that's cleaning it, pivoting it, whatever. And then they put that data just out there for anyone to visualize. So you can have access to the data, you can visualize it. They usually provide a prompt of hey, this is what we need. We're looking for funding, we're looking to start a campaign. And it's small organizations like TUI from Tanzania up through United Nations. They partnered with United Nations recently. And so, harnessing the power of data visualization for social change. And what happens is, you create these visualizations for the client, and the client reviews every single one, and they'll reach out to you. I've had it where the UN one in particular, they reached out to me and were like, hey, we love this, we want to use part of it in a campaign, but we really need this tweak, that tweak. I was like, sure, do a little tweak, now it's out in a campaign. So you really can use data viz to make that impact. They do more than mental health. This month is video volunteers in India, which is really cool. So that is an organization that you can go if you want to kind of start in this storytelling, visualization process a little bit different than business analytics, and kind of hit on those topics. And this is my contact information. If anyone has questions, definitely reach out to me.